Aloha, I'm Lyla Berg. Mahalo for tuning in to Island Focus. We're here today at Honolulu Hale to share the holiday activities of Honolulu City Lights and celebrate a tradition that started in 1985 with the theme, Let There Be Peace, Let There Be Light. Thank you for joining us on Island Focus. What can you tell us about its construction, its style?
It's a brainchild of the first mayor, Joseph Fern. And when Oʻahu went from County of Oʻahu Board of Supervisors to a mayoral, election, that's when he had an idea that we would need one building that would be the home rather than sort of meeting at, different places around the island.
It's now a meeting place as well.
Absolutely.
For government.
It's a meeting place for government, but there's so many community activities that take place too. We house the city's art collection. We do exhibits here. We also do community events, a ton of things.
And standing in front of this statue is significant.
Yeah, this statue is entitled Nana Ike Kumu by Michael Weidenbach. We got it in 1995 through the Commission on Culture and the Arts, and I think it's really significant for us to be here and for it to be placed here. Because if you think about the words Nana Ike Kumu, look to the source, look to sort of your reason for being, that really is what should drive us here at Honolulu Hale. Is what is the reason? And for us, it's the people that we serve.
And it's not just the people in the communities, it's the vendors, it's the visitors as well. What is the general sentiment, I guess, at the city and county for people who come and visit?
Well, I think, we really look forward to having people come and experience what we do here on a daily basis. The grounds are open for everyone to come and walk through. This is a public building, and we have a ton of things that I think would appeal to not just school-aged children, but for the public to see that we do here.
And as you're speaking, what strikes me about this statue is it's in motion.
Yes.
And it's moving forward toward the ocean. How significant is that in the Hawaiian culture?
One of the main rules you learn when you're a kid is you never face your back to the ocean, right? So you always want to look forward to what is coming. And in Hawaiian, to look forward, is to also look back. So know where you're going so that you know.
And know where you've been
so that you
know what to do now
exactly.
as well. From your perspective with the Mayor's Office on Culture and the Arts, what do you envision for the future and the role it could play?
I think for culture and arts particularly, it's sort of an abstract idea, right? What does culture and arts do? What are you responsible for? But I mean, if you take a 20,000, foot back look at what we do, it's really to make Honolulu into a place that welcomes people, that acknowledges who you are and what you stand for in art, in culture, in music, in food, in everything. So in that way, I think culture and arts is really central to what we do here at the city and county.
And it certainly is reflective in this building.
Yeah, this building, I think, if you think about the function of a hale, is really to house, people, to be a place for a community to gather. And I think that's what we would like for Honolulu Hale now and all the way into the future.
So in terms of the various arts that are sponsored by the county, you have the Royal Hawaiian Band.
To know that we have a band that is, works for the city and county, is there to serve. They march in a ton of parades all year. They do free events. They're offering a piece of art that, is designed to make people feel better about themselves, to enjoy what it is to be human and what it is to enjoy music, not just of Hawaii, but throughout the world.
What a special time to be able to spend with you.
Thank you, Lyla. It's a joy. It's a joyous time of the year, and it's wonderful to be with you. And you look great. And it's nice to see you in person finally after so many months.
Indeed, and I understand that you're convening people now in person, and it's the perfect time of year to share. What are some of the joyful things that you can?
Well, I think about the last 11 months since we got sworn in January 2nd, and it's been a bit of a blur, admittedly, but we've also gone through an incredible period of time. And we were really encouraged in the beginning of our term because suddenly vaccinations became available, and they weren't supposed to be available until the latter part of 21, actually. That's what most people were saying, but when they became available and we were able to put together our distribution sites and work with the hospitals and take care of our kapuna first and our first responders, and as the community built, that was very gratifying, and we worked our way through the tier systems, and we got our kids back playing on the fields back in April, and it felt like everything was coming together, and then we hit the Delta variant, and so ironically enough, we went to the 4th of July weekend talking about doing away with the tiers and 60% vaccination level, and that's what mattered, and we had critical mass to going into the Labor Day weekend. And for the first time, breaking 1,000 cases a day. The projections were very scary. Our hospitals were over capacity. We had oxygen supply problems, and things were looking very harrowing. In fact, the University of Hawaii had put out a report. They were projecting it could be possibly in October 3,700 cases a day, and that would have required hospitalizations way beyond our ability to deal with it. So we went through that really incredible, frightening period, and then almost miraculously, in the spirit of this holiday season, we hit October and we saw this real precipitous decline, and it's been building ever since, to the point now our vaccination levels are the best in the country. I still see people outdoors wearing masks. I was at the mall the other day, and I had to count the people who weren't. There was like 2 or 3. I mean, it was amazing. So I think it's a time now that we've been through a year to remember and a year to forget in so many ways, but we've learned a lot. But now is a time to be joyous in this holiday season, to celebrate together on who we are as a people and what we've been through, but more importantly, what we have to look forward to. I want to go into 2022 with a really renewed sense of hope. I want our community to feel that, and we're going to do everything we can from our office as an administration to help facilitate that.
And with all due respect to your current position as a businessman,
Yes.
you've gone through ups and downs and challenges. I know this is huge. And at the same time, it's sort of who you are. You take a situation, you take lemons and make lemonade.
Thank you. Yeah.
What are some of the highlights that you remember?
Well, first and foremost, I would tell you that the highlight for me is I've never sensed a feeling of responsibility like I do now. This is a lot different than just driving profitability for privately owned, even publicly traded companies, or news ratings, or all of those things. And I'm certainly not denigrating any of that. But when I think in terms of the mayor's office and all that we're responsible for, and what's at stake for so many people, it's incredible, So I think the highlight, first and foremost, it really has so much to do with the team of men and women we brought in here, and part of it, any experience I've ever had in my life where we've created success, it's always been predicated on that. And we were really fortunate. There were so many good people that came forward, and so we came in here and brought in 22 out of 25 new directors for our cabinet positions. We retained 3. They, in turn, I asked them to hire their own deputies, which was a bit unprecedented because they heretofore had been, for the most part, political appointments. But I felt the jobs were so big and so critical, we wanted to hit the ground running to drive execution, that they really should be handpicking their own partners. And they brought in 18 out of the 22 positions, and we retained some of really incredible people. We have so many, and so we came in with more than 40 senior leaders. And the biggest thing that I feel really good about is their sense of collaboration. Nobody's operating in a silo.
You had established the vision of freshness.
Yeah, thank you.
Bring experience in, and also looking toward the future, which is pretty much what the holiday season is about, celebrating and also looking forward. So along with the people that you've brought in and their own creativity and their freshness, you had some projects going on as well.
We did. Well, we knew going into it, even pre-COVID, that the top topics would be homelessness, obviously the rail project, and building affordable housing. We have such a housing shortage. And so we knew that. But in addition to that, what really came about is, obviously, given the adverse economic impact on the economy for having been shut down as many months as we were, with tourism not happening and so on, the rebuilding of our economy, distribution of funds, to help people, to stop people from being evicted. And I want to talk about that in a second, but rebuilding our economy. What really hit us really right in the face is the need to modernize the city. That's another thing we don't talk about, but that comes in so many different ways. It's not just about buying technology, although we have a real need to do so, but it has a lot to do with operational things. So, that and our staffing levels. One of the things we had to do when we first came in was impose a hiring freeze because we had a deficit in the budget. We had 60 days to balance that. So we imposed a hiring freeze because in order to do that, but that was the first thing we lifted back in June. But it's been a challenging time to find good people. So you're going to see us in the first of the year have our first ever career fair, big, and we're going to be very aggressive. I said the city needs to be a predator when it comes to recruiting people, as being a great place to work, and we want to attract the best and the brightest. We don't want people leaving to say, I've got to go to the mainland to get a good job. You know, there are a lot of good jobs on Oahu. A lot of them are taken, but the city has some really great needs and has some great potential for young people on a going forward basis. Look, it took us a bunch of months. I'm an old coach, so we operate with a strategy. You have a game plan. I'm not going to throw a solution out there without understanding the problem first. So we went out about what we've done, and we've launched our core program. I think you'll see that expand dramatically. We're working with facilities to place people and what we're going to do with the homeless issue. You saw just yesterday, we've worked very diligently every week on what we're getting done with the rail. The numbers are now down to a $1.97 billion overrun, but that's a lot better than the $3.6 billion we walked into just 11 months ago, and we're still working on that. And that's the completion of the rail. I have a meeting, I think, in Washington with the FTA in December. We're having some really good discussions. Look, I'm the fourth mayor to touch that project, and we walked into, it wasn't the best handoff. You know, they pulled the P3 for financing, they fired the CEO. It was a challenging time to come in the middle of a pandemic.
So you have a lot of plates spinning.
Yes, I could go on, but but I feel good. But the good news is, Lyla, what I want to convey is, despite these challenges, people say to me, oh, it must be, you know, I said, no, it's actually energizing, you know, and honestly, and that's why even all the more so, I want to be sure our holiday spirit that we have going into this year, that we have that, and that people feel good about it.
Yes, you have all of these plates spinning and these issues that you're working with, but you also have dreams.
Yes. Yes, I think you have to be a dreamer in this job. You know, we talk a lot about our ability to imagine and what's out there. So I expect improvement. That's a given. You know, we have a lot of talented people. We're going to get better. There's all kinds of metrics. But the real thing and the difference is innovation. You know, we're the new ideas. So how do you embrace the primary derivative of not just the leadership, but of the men and women who work in this city? How do you embrace, you know, their intellectual capital? You know, and that really, for want of a better way, has to do with ideas and being willing not to be risk adverse, to be willing to embrace new thinking, to try different things.
Well, and what you do so well is inspire and ignite the possibilities.
Well, thank you, Lyla. That's very nice. I hope so. I'm inspired by our team. And honestly, and one of the things I've told people repeatedly is, now that I've gotten in touch, not that I know all of our 10,000 employees, but, you know, being my first time on this side and on the inside and getting to meet so many men and women who work for the city, and the dedication, the commitment, the attitude, the pride they have in working, you know, for the place that they live in and they love. It's, you know, it's a very energizing experience.
Well, and I would like to suggest that if people need a little place of calm to walk through the property around Honolulu Hale.
Yes, we want to make the holiday as inviting this year as ever. In fact, today, after we finish the show, I'm meeting with the governor. We're going to be making announcements effective December 1 on a lifting of the restrictions that I think hopefully will be very well received by the public as a push forward in our feeling of not only normalcy, but in the spirit of this holiday season, so people can feel good and feel, you know, that they can be together.
And so as we conclude our conversation for today, what's a message that you could leave us with?
I want to leave everybody with a message of hope. Okay, we have been through a very difficult time. We now know we live in an uncertain world. And so while we can't necessarily talk about the future with certainty, I don't know if you ever can talk about certainty. So let's just draw on the lessons learned. Let's just draw down on our personal resolve, and let's be the people that we are. And let's live our lives as fully as we possibly can. And let's love each other, and let's go forward.
And the theme of this year is got poi, so eat poi.
There you go.
Thank you for being with us.
Lyla, thank you.
It's been a pleasure getting to know Rick Blangiardi, Mayor of the City and County of Honolulu. The inside of this building is phenomenal. I don't really remember looking at the ceiling and seeing the style.
Yeah, there's some really intricate details. I think if you want to get technical, it's called an Italianate Spanish colonial revival style. And apparently it was really popular in the early 1900s, which is why they chose that style for this building.
Well, if you look at the details, you know, of the lights and even the clock and the walls, you know, even though the walls have the contemporary photographs, it speaks of history.
Absolutely. I think the moment you step in here, looking at the, you know, the columns and the roof line, and if you look at the walls, we have every city council member who's ever been a member. So it's really walking the halls of history mixed in with what we do now, right? So I think it's really important for people to know they're welcome. City council meetings are public meetings, and we encourage people to come and participate, you know, and sort of do their civic duty and make your voice be heard.
And when we talk about a hale, as you've often reminded us, right, it's a place where people belong. In your culture in the arts department, you have professional art curators.
Yes, we do. We have an art curator, and I think not a lot of people know that we actually take care of the city's art collection, which includes the Kuhio statue, we have a Kalakaua statue, we have the Israel Kamakawiwa Ole bust in Wai'anae, we have the Grover Cleveland rock, the Duke
Kahanamoku and Mahatma Gandhi.
Absolutely, Mahatma Gandhi in front of the zoo.
So many other statues are also taken care of by the city and county.
Yeah, most recently we just did the very first restoration of the Kapi'olani statue right in front of Kapi'olani Park. That's also a process that it takes some really specialized curators. So we bring in people from Los Angeles, they work with our local curators, and we assure that our ali'i statues and all of our art pieces are, you know, taken care of and stewarded really well.
Well, when we remember that the Honolulu City Lights Festival celebration began with the theme, "Let there be peace, let there be light," I'm getting the sense that that's what your art department is about, that's what all the services are about, and certainly this place.
Yeah, I think, you know, we do arts and culture, and Honolulu City Lights is just another sort of add-on to what we do, which is to make people feel welcome using art, culture, music. And these are the things that are going to make people feel like they can come into Honolulu Hale and experience not just what we do, but this labor of love from the hundreds and hundreds of city employees who do this, you know, spend basically most of their time on it, you know, for the last 2 months of the year.
Music, dance, festivals, art, and in this building, I know you have the Festival of Trees too.
Yes, we do. Actually, this Festival of Trees, we sort of call it the Department Christmas Tree Display, is one of the most beloved events for our city department. And essentially, it's just a contest that each department comes in and decorates their tree. They spend months on it. And if you've ever been, you'll see there are some really elaborate trees with moving parts. And so it's something that we look forward to every year. And we are so excited to have it back this year.
Well, I think it's really cool that it's in the Hale home, because that's where peace and joy and love is supposed to be.
Absolutely. I think, you know, bringing people back into the Hale is going to be one of our big joys this season, because we haven't had people in here for quite a while. So having the trees in the Hale, welcoming the community back, it's really going to be a celebration for us.
The city and county, in addition to the arts and culture, also includes a lot of youth programs.
Yeah, we do a ton of youth programs. I think most notably is the Summer Fun program, right? People wait year-long. They wait in tons of lines to assure that their kids can participate. We do tons of youth sports. We do kupuna programs as well. So this joining of, you know, both young and old, bringing them together and doing things that enrich their lives and help them to create relationships is very important to us.
Let there be peace, let there be light.
That's right.
When I walk my dog and in the park, I see so many generations there together, playing pickleball, basketball, volleyball, or actually just watching the children. What do you envision is the role of the city and county in the future for creating those open spaces, but also bringing families together?
I think our job is not just to provide services, essential services that, you know, everyone is going to need on a daily basis, but it's also to help us, you know, connect together, not just in the fields of art and culture, but to make this place somewhere that our residents, our visitors, you know, they all feel welcome and they feel like it's a safe place to exchange, to experience, and engage in the culture of Honolulu.
And to remember we live in Hawaii.
Absolutely.
So wonderful to see you again, and in such a spiritual place. How have you been, Tommy?
Aloha, Lyla Berg. Really, really good. And always a pleasure to see you.
Now, as chair of the City Council, you have a lot of responsibilities. And at the moment, we'd just like to pause and give us a little history on where we are.
We're in Honolulu Hale, which is the seat of government for the city and county of Honolulu. It houses the city council as well as the mayor and his cabinet. And it's a very historic building built in 1929, where actually the first board of supervisors, it was called the board of supervisors prior to it be called the city council. The first board of supervisors sat back with, I believe it was Mayor Fern who helped build the Hale. But it's a really, really interesting building. I encourage you folks to come down and check it out. It was built after an Italian palace from Florence, Italy. Pretty amazing. You can see the big open courtyard with a big, huge stairwell and a ceiling that actually used to open up. It actually used to open up. And could you imagine back then, kind of like a stadium with a roof that can retract? Unfortunately, it doesn't retract anymore, but it's still like a big skylight. And with these big, huge lights and fixtures, that it's so beautiful. It really, really is an interesting place.
And the intention of the building, I would imagine, was to show the gracefulness of Honolulu and the artistic nature and also the connection with Europe.
That's true. Back in the 1920s when it was built, the European style was really popular. And it was patterned out, like I said, after a European palace. So wonderful, wonderful building. But it is getting old, right? And we're trying to upgrade the technology within the building, and that's been a challenge.
So growing up in Hawaii, driving by this building and also enjoying Honolulu city lights as a child, now as the chair, how do you feel when you walk into the building and know that you are responsible with your team, with the council, to make the decisions that influence the future for Honolulu?
Interestingly, as you drive by the building, I never thought for a second that I'd ever be on the Honolulu City Council and even being the chair. So it's a pretty big responsibility, right? But the fact of the matter is, we take care of these, in many respects, mundane things, right? We want to make sure that our roads are paved, that your water is running, that your toilet works, right? The sewer.
The water is clean.
And the water is clean, right? But we take care of your police, your fire department, your ambulance, all those things that people just take for granted sometimes. But that's really what we do. We just keep the city running. We are the policy-making body of the city. People think we have a lot more power than we actually do. We do control the budget of the city. But it's been somewhat difficult sometimes because if I see a problem, I can't just order a director to go out and do it. I have to ask him or point it out and be the voice of the community dealing with the administration, who is new, and it's been really interesting working with the new mayor and the new cabinet members, and very enjoyable. They all have really, really good hearts and minds, and it's been fun.
And isn't also the role not only of chair, but also the council people to work together with the other agencies and departments so that everything flows?
So we are all year round as well. Not like the legislature is only during a portion of the year. We're all year round, which many people don't know. We have full council meetings once a month, committee meetings once a month. And again, there's only 9 of us too. And for people watching out there, we used to serve together in the legislature about 15 years ago or so, right? And back then, there's 51 of us representatives. Here, there's only 9. So things move a lot faster than it does at the legislature.
And I think also in Hawaii, and I imagine you might experience the same, is that we're also familiar with each other. That when you go surfing or you're paddling canoe or you're on the beach, people just say, "Hey, Tom." Right? What's your dream for the city?
I talked about this before we started. If you make every decision based on how it's going to affect our keiki, how it's going to affect our children, and how it's going to affect our kupuna. Keiki and kupuna really are the most vulnerable. And if you think about every decision, how it's going to affect them, because the keiki really represents our future, and kupuna represents our past. But if you make a decision on how it's going to affect them, I think everybody's going to benefit from that. It really will. So that's what I try to do. That's what I try to impart to the council members, that these decisions that we make affect everybody, right?
They affect everyone now, and as you're contemplating your children going to college and wanting them to come back, my son as well, what do you envision would call them back?
Well, you got to have affordable housing. You know, interesting that you say that. I'm the fifth of 6 kids. We were all born and raised right here in Honolulu. My dad was born and raised in Kalihi. And, you know, both my parents moved away and ended up passing away on the mainland. 5 of the 6 kids moved away to the mainland. I'm the only one left. And part of the reason is because we can't afford to live here. And that scares me to death to think that my kids might go away to school and never come back. So I try to take them to the beach, try to get them to the ocean. I mean, really, that's what kept me here too, because I just love Hawaii, right? I love the ocean. And, you know, so many of my friends from high school talk about their kids who now live on the mainland. And it's so unfortunate, but really, it's about affordable housing.
And what I hear repeatedly is jobs, 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 as opposed to careers and employment. The city and county has influence on that as well, on what kind of careers could be developed, agriculture, not only just technology. Are those the kind of conversations that are at the city council as well?
Yeah, you know, we're trying to create green jobs, right? With the Build Back Better legislation that's going on in DC right now, it could create a lot of green jobs. You know, I went out and hookied seaweed from Mauna Loa Bay the other day, right? Mauna Loa
invasive.
Bay was it? Yes,
Okay.
was full of invasive seaweed. And I went out there and there was a bunch of workers out there who actually are young people who got a grant and were out there working. But they were young kids who were college graduates, right, organizing this program. And I thought, wow, that's awesome, right? Something like that seems so simple, but these are good paying jobs for these young people. And it was really exciting to see.
And even those questions, you know, about the beach access, the cleanliness of water, that's all within the purview of the county as well. How does the county engage the public in knowing what the issues are and how the public can help?
Well, personally, I walk door to door, and I do it not only on election time, but I do it all year round just to get people's feedback. I like to go to the neighborhood boards as well. I get invited to people's homes even when they have issues. A big thing going on right now is monster homes in Kaimaki. When I get a complaint like that, I show up and talk to the neighbors and find out what they're thinking and try to help them work through the problems that are occurring. Beach access is another big deal, right? I mean, being a surfer and canoe paddler, I love the ocean. And when we're getting these accesses closed off and not allowing the public to go there, you know, one of the things that we did was the city condemned the beach access in Hawaii Kai. You know, that was a big deal. It was super controversial. And, you know, prior council members have actually been sued over that. And, but you know, this is important. That's what makes Hawaii special. Being able to go to the ocean and being able to go to the water. So I didn't mind stepping out and saying, hey, you can't close that beach access.
As we end our conversation for today on that word special, that makes Hawaii special. It's a little bit overrated, I guess, for some people, but it's very meaningful to us, I know. What's a message that you'd like to give the audience, especially at this time of year, as we've wrapped up some challenges? Here we are, Honolulu City Lights.
Yeah, well, in the spirit of Christmas, love each other, right? Take care of each other, right? Be patient with each other and work together to solve our problems, right? We can do it. Just, it takes a little hard work, but if we do it with patience and love and aloha, I think we can get it done.
And joy.
And joy.
It was joyful talking with you. Thank you, Tommy,
Always
for
a
your
pleasure
time.
to see you. Aloha.
You've just had the opportunity to share some time with Tommy Waters, Chair of the Honolulu City Council. It's not just Honolulu Hale that we're here to learn about. This building has history as well.
Yeah, this building actually predates Honolulu Hale by 10 years at least. It was actually built by the Hawaii Evangelical Association on the centennial commemoration of the first missionary arrival to Hawaii in 1820. It then became what is known as the Kauai Seminary and then the Honolulu Printing Office.
There's so much history that happened in this area. What should we be thinking about as we drive by these buildings?
I think it's important for us to remember what the history is and how we came to be here. So if you look at Iolani Palace, and again, right along King Street, this is the street where, you know, the sort of insurgents came and, you know,
Overthrew the Queen.
Overthrew the Queen. You know, thank you for taking the words from. But it's really significant to remember that Hawaiians didn't just give up the kingdom, right? The kingdom was taken under force. That said, we have since then, tried to come together and remember what happened, remember who we are, and assert that there are rights and
Privileges,
privileges,
of living here.
absolutely.
And one of the things that strikes me when I walk in this area and I see buildings like this is that there was a deep relationship with other parts of the world that the kingdom had.
Absolutely. I think if we're talking about space again along King Street, Thomas Square, you have people like
Admiral Thomas.
Yeah, Admiral Thomas, who is really returning sovereignty after the British first came and they occupied the kingdom of Hawaii, for a series of months.
Well, and now that we are who we are, looking around at downtown, there's much possibility.
Absolutely. Well, I think for culture and arts particularly, it's sort of an abstract thought, right? Culture and arts are things that are going to help you become a better human, help you become a better community member, right? They're not sort of hard and fast, like we can fix this road and our lives are going to be better. We want to provide a space where people feel welcome, where people feel like they're valued, and that their voice matters to all of us.
Fixing roads is important.
Absolutely.
That's what the city and county does.
Yes.
What are your thoughts in terms of how we can help our children remember our history as we move into the future?
Well, so I'm sort of a historian myself, right? So of course, I think history is the most important. If you think about the way that Hawaiians thought about history, kava mamua, which means the time before, it's you can't move forward without looking back, right? And I think that's really significant for us. In order to understand where we are and where we should go, we have to look back and understand where we've been.
And then imagine what's possible in the future.
Absolutely.
Where do you think we're going with that?
Honolulu particularly has become famous for this idea of local, right? We have brought in all of the immigrants. We have created this community, a language, pidgin, that has encompassed what it is to be a member of the community in Honolulu. And I think that's really our strength. Not that we are colorblind, but that we're color conscious. We know who you are. We know what your culture represents. And so it's this exchange of, cultural ideas, of aloha, of food, of everything.
And balance.
Absolutely.
As we look at our historic buildings around us and the high rises, this actually launches us forward.
For sure.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
What an honor and a pleasure to be with both of you today on the set that you designed, Owen.
Well, back in '85, the mayor had come home from Asia and was impressed at Christmas celebration in Asia. And he had challenged Carol Costa with the city to develop something similar to that.
And this is in 1985
Yes.
with Mayor Frank Fosse.
Yes. Frank Fosse used to put his little chair on the sidewalk with a little card table and wave at everybody going by sitting on it. We have pictures of that. He wanted to expand on it. I think we had a 12-foot Christmas tree back then. We now have a 55-foot Christmas tree. The company that I was with, he had lunch and he asked them to help. How could they help develop City Light? And they volunteered me. I met Carol Costa. We went out to lunch and we came up with some concepts and ideas that we could build upon.
Well, and the idea of Honolulu City Lights as opposed to Hawaii Christmas.
Yes.
And as the Friends of Honolulu City Lights, you've been involved for many years. What touches you most about?
Well, one of the things that was important to Mayor Fosse was that he wanted to ensure that every boy and girl in Hawaii had a Christmas tree, was able to see Santa. So that tradition has carried us through here, and it brings so much happiness and joy to our community. So just that continuation of a tradition and happiness and merriment. And what a way to kick off our season.
Well, and it particularly now, probably like in 1985 as well, when the economy was not very healthy at the time, to bring joy
Yes.
and light and
To the families.
Right.
So what has been your greatest, memory?
Probably Shaka Sano. We wanted something large that represented the mayor, and Frank Fosse was always Shaka. So we developed Shaka Santa after coming up with many other concepts. We couldn't do an activity scene because it's a city. We were at one time going to put an elephant because Frank Fosse was a Republican then, shooting water out of his trunk, and then he became a Democrat, so that went out.
And there are no elephants in Hawaii.
No elephants in Hawaii. So we came up with the Shaka Santa. And we made him the Shaka so that we could cut off his wrists after Frank Fosse's term. However, when the next mayor came in, which was Jeremy Harris, said, no, leave Santa alone, he's iconic. And then we developed Mrs. Claus with him on the fountain. And there they are till today.
But every year they look a little bit different.
Well, this year, Mrs. Claus had a new muumu'u. It had faded over the years, and so they get a paint job about every 5 years to keep them shiny.
And so for folks who haven't seen the exhibits, it's not just Shaka Santa and Mama.
We put turtles in the fountain with a tray on their back, and it has poi, guava juice, all the things that are local. And people tend to throw money at the turtles, which goes through our cause. So keep throwing the money. We appreciate it.
Well, and every year you have a new ornament or some memorabilia.
Back here we have the 2 ornament sets for 2021. One is Got Poi, Santa coming back from Waiholi with taro. And the next one is Santa's at City Hall with the tree, and he has a bag of poi with him. So this year we're going poi.
And I think you have the real ornaments with you.
I do. And one of the things I wanted to share about that is, taro is such a, well, not only being nutritious, but it's such an important
Hawaiian,
element in
yes.
our Hawaiian culture.
Yeah.
So we're using Shaka Santa to help us with that message. Let's carry it on. But may I show it right now?
Please.
Okay, so this is the got poi, and what I wanted to share with everyone is that it comes in beautifully gift boxes ready for
Giving.
gifting. It's lightweight, and this is Shaka Santa with his bag of poi at City Hall with our beautifully decorated big tree that Owen can share more about.
Well, so tell us about the tree.
Well, we usually do a new tree every 3 years. However, because of COVID last year, we did a tree of hope. And this year, we have a tree in the shades of gold and white and copper. It is gingerbread, candy, and stars.
So
and it's
sweetness,
a bright future, yes.
bright future, lights. And is it a real tree?
Our tree is 55 feet tall. They harvested it from Kailua this year.
Trees are donated by our community who no longer wants their tree.
So the tree is donated every year. When they widened Kalani on the Oli Highway, we had a lot of trees out that district, and now we get it from all over the islands.
And actually, that's how the Friends also enable this project to happen every year with donations.
That's
Can you speak a little bit more about the organization?
Oh, sure. So as a nonprofit, the Friends of Honolulu City Lights, we have 3 areas that we seek donations. One is our generous sponsors. Thank you to Ō'lelo, our diamond sponsor. We also have our vendors. When it's a non-COVID year, all our vendors are on the grounds of Honolulu Hale with all choices of food, clowns,
So
everything, you name
it's the
it.
fair atmosphere.
Exactly.
Like an open market.
It's a festive, right? And then also we have our ornaments, and so this year we've been very fortunate and again, Owen has given us great designs to help us. So our sales have been great.
So the Friends of Honolulu City Lights is open to ideas and donations. I mean, how do you decide what the theme is every year?
We have a board of directors and we discuss it throughout the year, narrow it down so that by April we have the theme and we start directing everything in that direction.
And the ornaments, the decorations are made here in Hawaii.
They're all made here in Hawaii by local vendors or the city employees donate their time. We like to keep it local. We're not competing with shopping centers, which have budgets 10 times more than we do.
And along those lines, you have the Festival of Trees.
So our city employees, each department, and it's usually around 25 departments, as a gift to our community, there's a theme and they decorate to that theme, and it's all nicely displayed in the Honolulu Hale.
You know, we can anticipate Honolulu City Lights every year, but it is a surprise
It is.
because the vendors change, the exhibits change. As we wrap up for today, what's one of the differences for this year that we can expect?
Well, this year we have our ornament blown up, and it'll be on the lawn with gift boxes that people could sit on the gift boxes and have their family portraits taken. Bring your own camera. And a lot of people use that for their Christmas cards. And we've seen generations come with their pictures with Shaka Santa and Millie. But this year it's got poi and Santa with a poi bag. So it'll be really cute.
How do we know how to contact you?
Please visit our Friends of Honolulu City Lights website at honolulucitylights.org, and there's a contact us page, so it'll make it easy for us. Thank you.
A parting message for the audience.
Have a safe and happy Christmas with your family and friends.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing joy and continuing to bring joy and light and hope to all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me in my conversation with Loretta Jardine and Owen Ho with the Friends of Honolulu City Lights. Open space is so important for the spirit. And where are we here?
I mean, I think if you look at Honolulu Hale Civic Grounds, it's one of the few really large open spaces in downtown Honolulu. And if you think even further back about how urbanized our population has become, most people live in buildings, the population density in this area is really high, open spaces are even more important. You have to get out. If you have children, they have to play. You need to connect with nature. So I think, spaces like this and just our parks in general are super important to who we are.
Well, and we have these big trees that can tell a lot of stories and artwork from the community. Growing up in Hawaii, for you personally, what does open land mean?
Oh gosh. I think for me, as I'm sure with a lot of, kids that grew up in Hawaii, being outside is just so important to who you are, whether you go to the ocean or whether you just need to get outside. We grew up with the best weather in the world. So going outside was not just a summer thing for us, it was all the time. So for me, connecting to the ocean, to, going outside, just connecting and being in nature and listening is super important to my, well-being and my mental health.
And the city and county has services in all those areas, the lifeguards, park maintenance.
That's right.
What are some of the other services that we sometimes take for granted?
Oh gosh, working for the city now, I can see how many services we are in charge of, from homeless services, and the things that we outreach at the parks, at other city facilities. Lifeguards are a huge part of safety for us, and the ocean is such a part of who we are in Honolulu. Things like, trash service, water service, all these things that are occurring outside are all part of city and county as well.
So the fresh water, for instance, coming from our streams, coming from our aquifers, when we want the community to be involved, and being stewards, that requires a lot of attention from the county as well.
Absolutely. I think wai or water, as we call in Hawaiian, is important to who we are just as a people. If you think about the word wai and the word vai, which is basically just water, it means to be rich in Hawaiian, right? What it really means is if you have a lot of water, then you're wealthy, right? Because you could raise food, you could raise your family. And so water is obviously of prime importance to us, and we have a finite supply of water.
So water services, health and safety, security, police department, fire department. When I look at the traffic, like on King Street, it makes me wonder about the commitment and the energy of our city and county colleagues.
Yeah, I think when I wasn't working for the city, it's really easy to see all of the things that, the city might do wrong. Like, this road is broken, but we have such a wide range of services. And if you think about it, every time you open your eyes in the morning, the first things you do all have to do with the city. You brush your teeth, it's Board of Water Supply. Your trash comes, your wastewater. So just to remember that the city has such a wide breadth of services and that we have a ton of people just working really hard to assure that we can do the things we need to do every day.
And we have places where we can walk and be and enjoy and remember that we're in Hawaii.
Yep. I think, you know, these grounds are super significant to us because it's where all the festivals and things occurring in downtown Honolulu always took place. For me, Booking Music Festival, Honolulu Food and Wine, you know, tons of cultural festivals all happened here. And other than that, this is not really a space that I would come to unless there was a festival. So to bring Honolulu City Lights back this year is huge for us and we're so excited.
Well, thank you so much for your time and for reminding us that we're in Hawaii.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us today on Island Focus. I'm Lyla Berg. On behalf of the Island Focus crew and the entire team at Ōlelo Community Media, aloha, malama pono, and hau'oli makahiki ho. Take care of yourselves, each other, our communities, and have a happy new year. It's been a pleasure to share with you this last year the aloha of island leaders and to know that you too feel lucky we live Hawaii. See you soon.